by those willing to use force to get into our country illegally.
And then after that, Sinclair Media tweeted out an apology on Wednesday. We'd like to take a moment and address some concerns regarding a commentary by Boris Epstein that was aired on Sinclair stations this week. The opinion expressed in this segment do not reflect the views of Sinclair Broadcast Group.
Right. But they said it was a must-run segment for all networks?
Exactly.
Right. So they forced all these stations to run them. This is horrific commentary supporting the tear gassing of women and children. This was kind of an unprompted apology. We don't know what was happening behind the scenes. One of the problems for Sinclair is as they get larger and larger, they're going into Democratic blue liberal markets. They're in Washington, D.C. now. They're in Minneapolis. They're in Providence. Democrats who watch this aren't going to just sit there and this is just garbage, right? This isn't going to play in blue states. So I don't know if that's what prompted it. I'm sure journalists who work at Sinclair, we've read over and over, they are beside themselves. This is not what they got into local business for, to sit there and watch these parroting alt-right and white nationalist racism. So Sinclair, I think, is also discovering its limitations these days.
I think that we've seen a change in the past 12 years. In 2006, there was a story done in a local Florida news outlet which highlighted Bill Nelson, who was up for re-election against Katherine Harris, and their positions on a woman's right to choose. And the reporter ended the commentary by saying, if you like abortions, then Bill Nelson's your guy. The station fired him promptly because he blurred the line between opinion and fact. And we now have seen where there are more and more reporters on both sides of the aisle, at least from my perspective as a conservative, who either inadvertently or willfully will blur the lines. We'll see liberal journalists do it and conservatives do it. And that's a disservice to journalism overall. Further, we are missing somebody like Walter Cronkite, who is the trusted voice that can give us that, here's the facts, and we know you're not putting spin on it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying about willful blurring of the lines, but we've gotten to the point in this country and in this presidency where you have journalists who live and die by the notion that they have to be objective. I'm talking not about opinion journalists like me, but news side journalists out there who are covering this president, where the president puts them in the position of having to not editorialize or blur the lines, but to say the president has lied, that the president is telling falsehoods or whatever the synonym that they want to throw in. I mean, is that blurring of the lines, or is that journalistic responsibility?
No, that's not blurring the lines when they're actually saying facts. We combat falsehoods with facts, and I think that's a very important thing.
But there are a lot of conservatives out there who say that telling the facts is blurring the lines.
Guys, we have a president. Come on, we have an administration that every single day has Sarah Sanders out there spewing lies,
the administration
making things up,
putting. The big problem is how we got here.
Yes, but the point is that as journalists, do we not have a responsibility not to just all we can do is report, as you're saying, all we can do is report and to tell both sides? There is a responsibility that is long-standing of American journalists.
Yes, there is a responsibility of journalists.
Beyond just the reporting. And so what do we do? And this is the conversation. And it gets heated because we're passionate, Lon, because what do we do when we have an administration that is lying to us on a daily and putting propaganda down people's throats?
It's important to go back and to look at how we got to this situation. Donald Trump lies, and it's absolutely offensive, and journalists should hold him accountable. That's what the Fourth Estate is for. But there are instances where conservatives have felt more and more slighted to the point that they say, you know what? When you as a journalist speak, I'm not going to listen to you because I think you're lying. Take one example is that with Mitt Romney and the binders full of women. That was not an offensive, sexist, anti-woman comment. That was a factual statement of, yes, we have binders full of women. And while it was innocuous but built up as him being that, when you hear it's more crying wolf. You hear more and more on that. So it's important, and you actually have to hold the administration accountable for vicious and horrible lies.
There's crying wolf in that, like the wolf is at the door peeking through the windows at this point. I mean, binders full of women is such
but that's just one of
that's one of the old simpler times.
The old simpler times.
You know, the conservative complain about the so-called liberal media, which goes back to Spiro Agnew in decades, and they've spent tens of millions of dollars pushing that narrative. None of it matters anymore. I mean, that's an interesting example, and we can have a discussion on whether that was played the right way. We are so far beyond that now. Trump is a pathological, mentally unstable person, and that's what journalists should be saying every day.
And then he lies.
Drop the euphemisms.
Exactly. And we need to know that because Because, frankly, we have the history of our country in our hands.
Right. But the problem
is... And to consistently clarify, this is a lie, it is a lie, today he is lying. We have to say that. We cannot just sit back and let this be as some kind of normality.
But the problem is 69% of Americans in the past 10 years have said they no longer trust the media. And after the pipe bombs...
Evan, gotta go. Sorry to cut you off at pipe bombs.
I was going to get the last word, not
you. But we've already gone over Evan Siegfried, Eric Boehlert, and Maria Hinojosa. Thank you very much for being here. Up next, a closer look at the special counsel's investigation and why Donald Trump